Hey guys, it's Wednesday, February 19, 2025, and I've got a big update for you on the major winter storm that's getting underway right now. Now, shifting our focus back to the weather, we have a major winter storm unfolding right now. Warnings are in effect across a wide area, stretching all the way from Kansas through Missouri, Arkansas, and Oklahoma, continuing into Tennessee, Kentucky, and even reaching parts of the mid-Atlantic, including areas close to the Outer Banks of North Carolina. This storm is going to have a significant impact, bringing heavy snow and dangerous travel conditions to places that were just recently dealing with severe flooding. That's going to create some serious complications. There are still roads covered with water, and runoff from hills and mountains is going to freeze overnight, turning those areas into sheets of ice. If you're in one of the affected regions, please be prepared for this, because conditions could deteriorate quickly. But before we get into the details, hit the subscribe button, like this video, and leave your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for your support. Some of the areas that will be hit the hardest today include southeast Kansas, northeast Oklahoma, southwest Missouri, and northern Arkansas. This includes major cities like Tulsa, Oklahoma, where we're expecting a mix of heavy snow, sleet, and ice, which could cause significant disruptions. Over in Joplin, Springfield, Missouri, conditions are also going to be very rough, with accumulating snow leading to major travel headaches. Fayetteville, Arkansas is another area where we anticipate serious delays due to dangerous road conditions. Moving eastward, places like Pittsburgh, Kansas, Paducah, Kentucky, and parts of southern Illinois will also be heavily impacted. Even locations a bit farther away, such as Bowling Green, Kentucky, and Wichita, Kansas, will likely experience moderate travel disruptions as this system continues to push through. This is actually the first time we've issued a moderate risk for winter storm conditions using our new winter storm outlook system. Now, granted, we've only been using this system for about a week, so it's still new, but the fact that we're already seeing conditions that warrant this level of risk is worth noting. Along with that, there's an enhanced risk of significant winter weather extending from Kansas into western Kentucky. As we move into tomorrow, this risk will shift eastward, bringing hazardous conditions into parts of Arkansas, Kentucky, Tennessee, Virginia, and North Carolina. Looking ahead at how this storm is going to progress, we can see that by around 6 p.m. Eastern tonight, Tulsa will already be experiencing heavy snowfall, while Kansas City will be seeing lighter snow accumulations. St. Louis might get in on some of the action as well, but there's a layer of dry air in place that could delay the onset of snowfall there. Meanwhile, in Paducah, Kentucky, we're likely to see snowflakes starting to fall by this time. At the same time, areas around Little Rock and Fayetteville, Arkansas, will be dealing with a significant ice storm, with freezing rain creating hazardous conditions. As the evening progresses, this wintry mix will push into Memphis, likely bringing snow and sleet by midnight. By the early morning hours, around 2 Wednesday, Nashville will begin seeing snow, and by 4 a.m., both Memphis and Nashville could be in the middle of heavy snowfall. By 5 or 6 a.m., Knoxville will also start seeing snow accumulation, and between 5 a.m. and 9, we'll have a large area of moderate snow blanketing parts of Kentucky, including Lexington and Moorhead, extending over to Charleston, West Virginia. But what's really interesting about this system is what happens when it reaches the Appalachian Mountains. As soon as it interacts with the mountains, the storm really starts to weaken and fall apart. It then tries to reform as it moves toward the East Coast, but only in a very narrow band. We're talking about an area from southern Maryland and southern Delaware down through Norfolk, Virginia, and into northern North Carolina. This is a much smaller region than what some of the earlier model runs suggested. And in fact, it's looking even less likely now that cities like Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, New York City, or Boston will see any significant snowfall from this system at all. When we talk about snow totals, the general picture has stayed fairly consistent with what we've been forecasting over the past several days. The heaviest snow will be concentrated over southeast Kansas, northeast Oklahoma, southern Missouri, and northern Arkansas, with a solid corridor of snowfall exceeding 10 inches in places like Springfield and Joplin, Missouri. However, areas like St. Louis, Kansas City, and Cincinnati are looking much less likely to see more than an inch or two of snow. Memphis will likely end up with about an inch as well, while Nashville could get around 1 to 2 inches. Over in Paducah, Kentucky, 3 to 5 inches is still a good bet. The biggest snow totals will likely be found from Springfield, Missouri, over to Tulsa, Oklahoma. Meanwhile, farther east, the storm's second phase is becoming much more uncertain. When we first started tracking the system several days ago, there was some speculation that it could bring significant snowfall to the I-95 corridor, but we were always cautious about that possibility, assigning only about a 20 chance to that outcome. And sure enough, now that we're getting closer to the event, those early model runs are proving to be unreliable. This is exactly why I always stress the importance of not putting too much stock in snowfall predictions more than 3 days out. Models can shift dramatically, and this is a perfect example of why we wait to show snow maps until we're within a more reliable time frame. Right now, it's looking like DC. Might get an inch of snow if conditions play out just right, but Philly, New York City, and Boston are likely to see little to nothing. The one exception on the East Coast is Norfolk, Virginia, where we could see as much as 8 inches of snow, with Richmond possibly getting 2 to 5 inches. As we move into Thursday afternoon, snow showers will linger over the mid-Atlantic, but by 4 p.m. Thursday, the main bulk of the storm will be over. After that, the weather will calm down for a while, with very cold temperatures settling in across the eastern United States. This cold pattern will continue through the weekend, and by next week, the weather models are picking up another storm threat, likely to impact the eastern United States. This could bring another snowstorm for the upper Midwest, Great Lakes, and potentially the Ohio Valley and Mid-Atlantic regions. We may see this storm develop around Sunday, February 23rd, and continue into Monday, February 24th. It's still far out, so there's uncertainty in how it will develop, but it's definitely worth keeping an eye on. Additionally, another storm system will move through the Rockies around February 25th, bringing heavy snow to the mountains and possibly affecting the Great Lakes area. Looking further out, there's a chance of some severe weather for the Deep South by Wednesday, February 26th, with thunderstorms forming ahead of a cold front. This could lead to some severe storms in the southeast on Thursday, February 27th. There's also a possibility of some snow further inland as cold air rushes in behind the system. The models are still uncertain about how this will play out, so it's too early to make definitive predictions. However, it's worth noting that these types of transitions between rain and snow with cold air settling in after the front often lead to difficult forecasting. Even small changes in the model can drastically affect the final outcome. So it's best to remain cautious and wait for further updates as we get closer to the event. Looking ahead to early March, the models are showing potential for more significant weather activity in the Deep South, with major low pressure systems moving through the region and bringing both snow and thunderstorms. However, since we're still several days out, these predictions are far from certain, and the forecast could change significantly. The model suggests that after these storms pass, we'll see a brief break in the weather before more activity arrives in the mid-Atlantic and Northeast around March 1st and 2nd. Once again, it's hard to predict with any accuracy this far out, but it's something to watch as the weather patterns evolve. Overall, the outlook for late February and early March suggests colder than normal temperatures, with some potential snowstorms in the eastern United States, particularly for the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic regions. In terms of snow totals, the models are predicting substantial snowfall for areas in the Northeast, particularly around New York, New England, and the Great Lakes. The European model suggests that snow totals could range from 6 to 12 inches in some areas, especially with storms expected in the coming days. The GFS model, however, shows lower totals, especially in areas where rain and sleet are expected to mix in. The GFS model also doesn't take into account the melting effects or compaction of snow after it falls, which means it's likely underestimating the actual amount of snow that will accumulate. The total precipitation is also expected to increase, with a stronger storm system likely to bring heavy snow to the Rockies and the Great Lakes. Temperatures will continue to be cold this week, with a major cold blast expected in late February, early March. The models show very cold air moving into the eastern United States for the first few days of March, followed by a potential warm-up later in the month. As always, it's important to remember that these long-range forecasts are subject to change, and the specifics will become clearer as we get closer to the event. For now, the general trend is colder weather with some storm activity, particularly in the mid-Atlantic and Northeast regions. The snowstorm tracking now could be the first of many, and it's definitely one to watch closely as it unfolds. Thanks for watching. See you next one.